Alright guys, Supreme Kami here. So we obviously did pull for Mimi, so now let's gonna talk about how to use her. So we will just kind of quickly go over her kit, things to kind of note, and then we will kind of proceed with how to really play her, and then some gameplay that I have for her. So I obviously do have her a 2-star, but as far as the recording goes, I'm just gonna have her a 0-star because I do want to do like a comparison just on my own, just to see what kind of difference we are gonna be getting. So first of all, she is a 42 character, but as far as her kit, like in here and even in her advancement, she doesn't really offer a whole lot for tanking capability. I don't really know why. kind of sad. Why not just make her like a DPS role? Like why? I don't know. But as far as like what she's gonna be doing, she's gonna be the main DPS for the Volt now. So as far as the attack that you want to be using, of all of the normal attacks out here, the one that you want to be using is gonna be the Thunder Burst. This one is the one that has the highest damage per second. That's why this one is the one that's used. And most importantly, you are gaining shield, so for every 1.5 seconds. So this is crazy, man. I feel like hybrid body, all the good things. So yeah, that's why this is the one to be using. Very important. Things to also know, she also does have this ability. Every 3 normal attacks, she gains a counter. Stacks of the 3 times or 8 times over here. So this one is very important to take note of because this is gonna come into the skill later on. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Dodge attack. So as far as dodge attack, there's not really something to really know, but this one is kind of important. I believe it should be the lightning flash. This one is really good as far as a grouping enemy. This one is excellent on that. So I mean, like if you are running, let's say Bygone or just any content that has multiple enemy, you want to group them together. I think this one works really nice in conjunction with Rebellia. It's awesome, right? This one is good. So skill. So yeah, her skill is honestly just deals a lot of damage. So as far as the skill, she has 2 charges of that. So remember we talked about the counter. So after you use a skill, it's gonna consume the counter, and then if you don't have the counter, you're just gonna do less damage. So every time the lightning strikes deal damage equal to that percentage plus that to nearby target, and keep that in mind, you can do that up to 2 times. So it's kind of crazy. And then after the after the skill, like the cloud disappear, you're gonna do additional damage. So that's why the skill is busted. So cooldown is gonna be 30 seconds. So that is gonna come in. That is kind of important to remember as far as what kind of weapon you're pairing it with. So that's that. Other than that, I think that is pretty much it. So as far as the showcase or what we are using, I am not going to be equipping 3 Volt weapon, but do keep that in mind. If you are using 3 Volt weapon, you do more damage. So that's insane. Like the skill itself is insane. Discharge, there's not really a whole lot to note about the discharge except for the passive. When Fantasia is triggered, if you are on this weapon itself, you do 5,000 damage to the nearby target, or you swap into it. So that's it's just crazy. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all you need to know. So she is very powerful. Even like this is her base kit. This is even without the investment, she's busted already. So you guys can already tell that like these weapons nowadays, like without any higher side investment, they're good. One last thing to note is her unique ability, the Thunder Boom on view. So when you are landing any attack with this weapon, obviously it's the same name over here, it's going to be dealing the following effects: the attack, HP. So you guys do get it. So every weapon nowadays do have this unique ability, so that's pretty cool. So that means she has to be on view to be able to take advantage of that. So that's why she's a tank, but she's a DPS. I don't kind of strange, right? So let's kind of get onto the rotation. So 2 teams I'm going to be using. I am going to be using this team, the Archer team, and then we will also be using the I don't have Rebellia, so we will be using Fenrir. They both work the same. Honestly, there's no difference because she's still going to be the main DPS. So let's kind of see how the rotation goes in. the Mimi Fenrir team is gonna start something like this. So Fenrir skill, sub skill, going into Fenrir using her skill. And as far as this A1 sub skill, they pretty much both proctored nearly at the same time. So you got that. So at this point in time, we have successfully cast both a Mimi skill, and then right now we're just gonna be doing the whole attack until we reach somewhere around 6 seconds cooldown on Mimi. That's the indication for us to discharge back into Fiona and start the rotation again. The reason being for this team is a little bit tricky because you do have to time the song world correctly on Fenrir, because you don't want the song world to kind of expire. So kind of like a tip is like you turn on extremely loud on Fenrir song, because you know when it's going to be ending. So you guys can see that I was a little bit late on that. And as far as this rotation goes, we do not ever get the chance to discharge back into Fenrir, unfortunately, because the charge meter, the weapon charge meter after discharging into Fiona is extremely slow. So we do happen to discharge into Mimi. You can actually just jump cancel that because you don't get an additional bonus for discharging into her. So that right there can save you some time. So the auto team is gonna work the same. So we are gonna be starting things out with Fiona's skill, sub skill, and then going into Lin, pop both the Moonlight Realm, and then at this point in time we will spot back into Mimi, pop both the skill, and then continuously hold attack until we hit roughly about 7 seconds, and then at that point in time we would discharge back into Fiona and then use the sub skill. At this point, I feel like for Lin, she would be able to use both the Moonlight Realm, because keep that in mind, her cooldown is 30 seconds, so that's why it kind of pairs up just a little bit right. But at the same time, as far as her Moonlight Realm, it's kind of injustice because she runs out at 18 seconds, so it's kind of, you do have some downtime for her Moonlight Realm, unfortunately. So pop both skills again, and then we will start back the rotation fresh again. And this is pretty much how the auto rotation is gonna look like. So it's pretty much identical in a way. It's not really hard, it's honestly kind of straightforward. So now we can hop into some actual game footage. Alright, so I do have 3 different gameplay to kind of show you guys on a more practical sense. So I did take them on some of the more harder content for you guys. So first off, we have the Frontier Clash Evolution. So I feel really good about using Mimi's weapon because it's one of those, you know, hold and charge and you attack. So I'm just kind of following the enemy. So as far as my rotation goes, I'm not really distracted or I'm not really thrown off by the enemy, right? So I'm doing what I need to do, maintaining my rotation, keeping track of the cooldown. So that thing is pretty good. That part we did get kind of stunned a little bit, unfortunate, but other than that, we were able to maintain our rotation really well. We were able to maintain attacking her consistently, not really, you know, anything going right there. So pretty good. Overall, you guys can see that we are taking damage, but at the same time we are getting shield, so that's why it's really good. And we have a dedicated healer for this event, so I think overall this event and even this hard content fairly good. Up next, we do have the sequential balance realm. So same thing again. This one is definitely a good gauge to test out how it functions on a practical sense, because these enemy will kind of smack you upside down, left and right. And I don't know why I kind of paused right there, but anyways, we did pretty good. We were able to kind of secure our rotation really nice, how we really wanted. And for the setup, I did opted to use Fenrir because balance realm sequential, you do have to be running, you know, one element. It only takes, you know, bolt damage. You guys can see that my alter damage is what is it saying? It's not registering, so kind of unfortunate. But I think this works out really good because my main concern for any of these content is not being able to heal. So with A1 Fenrir and just Fenrir herself, she's able to heal. It's fairly good, fairly fast. So survivability was good, allowing us to maintain our rotation fairly good as well. And then last but not least, we do have the weekly challenge rate. I don't think this is anything to write home about because I think this is, at this point in time, if we have a pretty good squad put together, you are going to be doing it fairly fast, right? So my rotation has been consistent, but I believe this boss does cast like a ball like that around you, so it just kind of throw you off as far as the rotation goes. But I think we did recover fairly well. I think it was just a little bit too early to discharge back into Lin, but other than that, I think our rotation worked out pretty good. So other than that, I feel like as far as how to play Mimi, she's a really straightforward character. After you learn the cooldown alongside with the other character, I think you'll be fine. I don't think there's anything too tricky about even using her with like Venura, for example. You just gotta keep track of the cooldown on Mimi itself, and then you should be good to go. The double art team, I think, is a better experience because you don't really have to care too much about when to fully discharge at a certain specific timer. I think it should work out nicely if you know if you know how to discharge correctly, so you can always get to of the lens and moonlight round for you. But other than that, that's pretty much it for me. And then I'll be catching you guys up on the next one.